August 12th, 2020, Anthony, day 2 of the AAHOA virtual conference. We've got Vinay Patel. What do you think about that?
AAHOA let's go.
All right. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. Anthony, great to see you. I am, of course, Glenn. And I know the most pressing issue that all of you guys are worried about. You're like, Glenn, what's going on with your power? I got it back, Anthony. I got my power back after 8 days.
You know, I really don't think anybody cares, but okay, great.
Come on, man. Everybody cares. I mean, you should see the masses not sending me well wishes or anything like that. But I got to tell you, for me, it was kind of like a reverse Hanukkah. I went 8 days without lights instead of having lights. Little Jew joke there that I know somebody out there will think is funny.
Okay, so what are we talking about today?
All right, Vinay Patel, Vice Chairman, is joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about AAHOA and the state of financing in the industry. So without further ado, Mr. Vinay Patel.
Hey,
Vinay, great to see you. And could you please tell Anthony that my electricity issues are much more significant than he's letting on here, please?
Look at where you look, right? That's very critical, right?
Yes,
electricity.
Exactly. Well, congratulations on day 1 of your event. Anthony, take it away.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to explain. We've been talking about AAHOA. I want to explain for the audience that maybe not know AAHOA. What is AAHOA? I know it's very basic, but I think we should start because, believe it or not, people in the industry that are not from the AAHOA community, really, some of them don't know AAHOA. I mentioned, they're like, what's that? So why don't you explain, from your perspective, explain what AAHOA is, and then tell us about AAHOA, and then we'll talk about it.
Sure. Obviously, it comprises of hotel owners. It's simple, basically the Asian American Hotel Owners Association. But, to me, more importantly, it's about the ownership, the heart, and the drive that these people bring to the table, to the American economy and the American dream here. And so, to me, that's what the AAHOA is all about. I mean, if you talk to some 20,000 members, all of them have this drive and the tenacity to kind of survive in this environment, not only today, but over the last 30 years that we've been in survival and mode here. That they've been here. So to me, that's what AAHOA is all about: the strength, the grit, and the drive to get ahead in this country here.
And I love this story of AAHOA because, truth be told, the reason, in my opinion, the reason AAHOA exists is because you did receive some discrimination when you guys first got here, and you didn't get a lot of attention. And then you were like, hey, wait, we own all these hotels, we're going to get attention. And then you combined your efforts, and now you're the most powerful organization in hospitality.
Correct, exactly. And so how things come back around. You talk about how the whole association started due to discrimination from insurance companies and whatever else is out there. And yet here we are today fighting on multiple different things. Discrimination may not be on the forefront, but we got a lot of different things that we kind of fight on behalf of our membership here. So it's amazing how the association has grown over the last 30 years. It's evolved. I mean, it's evolved based on the needs of our membership. Membership needs have changed over the last 30 years. And so I think that this association, the membership, the staff, the people, the whole industry as a whole has done a phenomenal job to kind of keep us going like this.
That's right. At the beginning of the history of AAHOA, it was really about fair franchising, about getting a seat at the table and being counted as an equal amongst not just your peers in the industry, but amongst the franchise community, which is setting the prices and stuff that you pay. Then I would say probably about 10 years ago or so, you started to take a real effort at taking over Capitol Hill and partnering with groups such as the AAHOA to really be formidable. Then you opened up an office in Washington, D.C. to further that cause. And now everyone from presidents, senators, and congressional representatives all know the name of AAHOA and all of the folks within it. So congratulations on all the incredible strides that you've been making to have our voices heard on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, and all that kind of goes to looking at our board. Over the last 30 years, the founding fathers that have kind of set us apart and set us in this direction that we were in, looking at the needs of our members, and we kind of evolve. And that's about business, right? You always have to constantly keep changing, and change is a constant where you go. And so we constantly have to keep changing to the needs of our members here. And so just like you said, before it was a discrimination, then maybe franchising issues, now advocacy, and now you've got the pandemic here that we've got to deal with. So a lot of different things that we all deal with and work with. And one of the good things about this industry and even the AAHOA members is they're very resilient. They're very resilient in terms of dealing with a lot of adversity. And I think we'll get through this one year as well.
Oh, I know that you guys will get through it, as will a lot of our peers within the industry. But of course, not to minimize the challenges that you're facing. One of the challenges that you were facing, of course, was what we were all hoping for, was an in-person event, which has now gone virtual. And I encourage everybody to check out AAHOA 20 taking place today and tomorrow. Today is day 2 of it. You've got a great general session going on today and a lot of other stuff. We're hoping to get a good quick update from you on what is happening at AAHOA today and how yesterday went as well.
Yeah, yesterday, we had the elections, and we had Harris Rosen, who was a speaker, talking about leadership, and that, inspiring words on his part. And then, one of the things that makes AAHOA so great is the election process. If you look at the conventions over the last, 20 some odd years, and people go to this election, people love this election, people love the idea that they can choose their leader and not be nepotized in any way at all. So this is one of the things that's part of the pride that the association takes when it goes to the conferences. And this year, because of the pandemic, we had to pivot to this online. And so it was very hesitant. I mean, me as a treasurer, vice chair, as an officer over the last 6 months to a year dealing with this, and all the board members were very hesitant and saying, how is this all going to work out? And, so far, so good. Yesterday, we had the elections. We had over 3,000 people that casted their votes for our next leader for secretary and then regional directors and stuff. So I think so far, so good. The platform has worked really well. In terms of the online voting, plus we have a lot of first generation hoteliers. So technology, even for myself, technology is not a first adapter for us. And so a lot of people have adapted and have kind of gone through this. And so far, so good. And today we're starting to the official, yesterday was the official day, but today we're looking at some of the other contents today. We've got CEO panel coming up this afternoon, economic outlook for 2020 in terms of what's going to happen over the next year to 12 months or so. And then you've got from the young professionals this afternoon as well. The future of our association is with the young professionals. And so I think that should be an interesting and great panel to hear. So a lot of good things. And, even myself, going through this swap card app that we're using. So even preparing for here, so I said, look, let me go to the trade show. And that was an interesting experience for myself. I mean, to be able to go on the website, go on the vendors that we want to go talk to. And it was very interesting, and it was good in a way. And I'll give you a simple example. So I was looking at one of the brands, and when I typically would walk through a typical convention trade show, I would go there, and people are busy buzzing around and this and that, and you may want to look at a particular prototype or something that the brand is offering. But at least online, I can just click on that particular brand, it downloads it to my computer, and it's right there. And so before, you're kind of fumbling around on the tables there. So it's a different way to do business. Again, I'm not suggesting that I love it, but I'm getting used to it, and there's some pros and cons to it.
Right. Vinay, let me say something positive about having a virtual event. I don't get as many blisters because I was walking 15, 20,000 steps a day. But other than that, I do love the in-person meetings. And today, Vinay, I've already set up several meetings at the trade show that I'm going to do and try to see how it'll work and hope that everybody could find mutual success during this. Anthony?
Well, we have a booth, and we've been going in and out of our booth talking to different people for our business because we're one of the sponsors for Hospitality Success, and it's been great. But Vinay, one of the things I want to ask you is, you're on the board, but you have hotels. How many hotels do you have?
I've got 9.
You have 9 hotels. And where are you now as a hotel owner? You're an advocate. You work with AAHOA, but really you're a hotel owner, so you're advocating for your businesses as well. What is your biggest need right now?
The biggest challenge right now is revenue, cash, liquidity. I think that's probably the common theme you hear from a lot of the hotel owners you talk about. And the PPP funds were great, but they all ran out, or they're going to run out soon. And most of the hoteliers are probably facing the same situation where we're all going to slowly run out of this PPP fund. So cash and liquidity is the biggest thing right now. And how do you get through this year? You're looking at budgets for the next 12 months or 6 months, at least through December. How do you kind of ride it out? And so one of the things I've learned, and I think many of the second generation and third generation hoteliers will learn in this particular thing here, is that how do you get the most out of the least? We're able to run hotels now on literally 30, 40% occupancy and making it through. So I could have never thought to run a hotel, and I'm not saying make money, but lose that much money at running a 30, 40% occupancy. So we're all learning a lot, and so learning how to live with less and get more out of it.
And do you think coming out of this, do you think it'll be good as far as streamlining your businesses and realize what you don't need and that may not be good for employment, and that may not be good for some of your vendors. And also I'd like you to, the second part of that, I'd like to talk about what how do you see the third parties? Because from where I sit, the third parties have disappeared. They've basically throw their hands up and say, screw you. You know, that's your problem, it's not our problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think just like you say, I think we've learned a lot and learned to live with a lot less and be able to manage a lot more without a lot of stuff there. I think one of the biggest things from the association perspective, you have a lot of second, third generation hoteliers who have been flying high and riding high. I mean, I give my own example. My kids are older and they're flying high right now. I go, this is a good wake up call and reality check in the sense of, hey, look, you should be able to do what our forefathers did. Hey, look, we did whatever we could minimally and then saved whatever we can. So I think this would be a good wake up call and learning experience. I think from efficiency perspective, if you look at next 12 months or 24 months, we'll be, I think, coming out of this process a lot more efficient in terms of how we operate. Only sad reality is we forget very easily. I mean, that's just the part of our thing. We forget very easily. So hopefully this is a long-term thing that we can kind of learn, but I don't think that'll happen there.
Right. There's definitely a lot of lessons to be learned in all of these downturns. What do you think you're getting out of the development and project financing communities? What's the state of that? How do you see the relationships going further between all of the major brands that I know are big supporters of your events, your constituents that use some of those brands, the thought about going independent? What's that big picture there and how everything's going to kind of get reshuffled in your opinion?
Yeah, I've got 2 hotels, one opening up in September and I've got another opening up sometime in January of next year. So those 2 are obviously done and should be opened in by the time it's supposed to open. And I've got 2 in the pipeline. So we're probably going to just pause on those for now.
Right.
Financing is a lot harder. It's not as easy as before. And so I think we'll pause on those and take a breather for the next 6 months and see what happens there.
Right.
And in terms of the brands and in terms of going independent, today, this is a great opportunity for anybody that has thoughts of even converting some of their older brands to independent. I think you've got a lot of opportunities to do that. Technology makes it a lot easier for you to sell your brands. And ultimately, if you operate your hotel in a very efficient, decent manner in a good way, you shouldn't really be needing the brand as much. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't help. Don't get me wrong. It definitely helps. But you don't absolutely have to have a brand to be surviving in this industry.
So let me ask you a question. Did my partner, Jeremy Pinkerton, pay you to say that? Because our business basically relies on hotels going from brands, as you know, to independent. And one of the things I say is, I don't want your problems. I want to teach you how to solve your problems. Yeah. And right now what we're finding is I've been advocating for that for years. And I've been advocating, especially in last year, even before COVID, that. And the region that it really hit me hard was third parties, management company, brand. Then in New York City, with all the labor costs going up, even at the top of the heap, last year these hotels in Times Square couldn't make a living. And my personal opinion, if you're in Times Square pre-COVID, you didn't need a brand, but that's just my opinion. So our business really came out of a need to solve that problem. And one of the things I learned from AAHOA and from those owners is you guys run your hotels. Yeah. I mean, you like even if the brand is managing or a management company is running it, like you guys don't play. Like you're on top of it. You know your linen count. You know your thread count. You know how many minutes it takes to clean a room, an occupied room, a stayover room. You understand CRS, PMS, whereas so many owners don't. And it's a tribute to you. So I'm glad you said that. Thank you. And if you'd like to know more, you can go to booth 144 at AAHOA. And me and my partner and my VP of client service will be there to greet you.
I didn't know where it was shameless plug time, Anthony. I like that you took advantage of that moment.
Yeah, Anthony, to comment on you and just give you my own personal story. When I first started in the business, I had an independent motel, and then I moved up to the branded hotels. And back then, I was an educated person. I had a degree in business and marketing, and I went to Hilton, Marriott. And again, I'm not picking on any brands in any way at all. The top 2 brands there, and they say, look, we can't give this brand because it's just what didn't make sense in that market. And so I had to shift down to a lower tier brand. But the biggest thing for me that came out of it is that not that you didn't need a brand, but if you work hard at your hotels, if you did the right things and take care of your customers and take care of people, you typically will come out. So even today, I see this in our own hotels, in the 9 hotels we have. Yeah, we've got Hilton Marriott. We've got some other brands as well. But ultimately, it's the ownership or the operations of the property level that really, really make a difference. And brand supports it, but I think you can still overcome a weaker brand or a stronger brand if you just do the right thing on your side.
For years and years, the top 10 hotels in New York City were non-branded hotels. I don't know what it is now or right pre-COVID, but the top 10 were non-branded hotels. I worked for non-branded hotels most of my career. And what I learned, especially once the reviews started going online, you take care of your guests, they'll take care of you online. And again, a brand I think a brand is more important in maybe a B or C market. But even if there is a brand, that doesn't mean you don't learn how to drive your own hotel. And that's the number one frustration of me of doing what I've done for as many years as I've done it, is like, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, you own a hotel for 5 years, you don't know what a star report is.
Right. So, Anthony, Vinay, we have a question here from Manish Patel. We don't have a brand. If we don't have a brand, then we will be relying on the OTAs. What is your opinion about that, gentlemen?
OTAs are I mean, it's a necessary evil when it depends. I mean, look, right now, when you look at a lot of different things there, we right now, even at all of our hotels, we're relying on the OTAs at this given moment. But the fees that they charge, the kind of silly stuff that goes on, when it comes to credit card charges to whatever else is out there, and the service level the consumer gets, it's just not all worth it, especially when you start charging that level. So I think that the way technology is today and the way we're moving, overall, hopefully in the long run, we kind of wean away from this OTA stuff. But at these tough times, it's so easy as a hotelier to kind of flock to that because, hey, everybody's giving revenue on OTAs or whatever. It's so easy to flock. But we as hoteliers need to have the courage to sit there and say, okay, look, we can't give our inventory to the OTAs. I mean, that's just the biggest challenge that we face right now.
Listen, the OTAs is the biggest thorn in the side of hoteliers, period, end of story. And with that said, and you've heard me say it on this show before, Glenn, they're the limousine driver. They drive you to the hotel, you tip them the 15-20%, and then that driver should go away and never come back. And what hotel owners are really, really bad at is they're really bad at capturing that guest that the OTA brought to their hotel to recapture that guest. The brands do a good job, but the independent hotels do a horrible job. And they got to incentivize their team to bring that back through your website. So listen, you can't be mad at the OTAs for spending billions of dollars and figuring it out. We're really bad in a lot of sense. A lot of hoteliers are just bad at marketing, bad at PR, and they don't take the time to really understand their business.
That's a great point there, Anthony. And we're working right now behind the scenes to have one of the major OTAs come on here. So hopefully we'll have them on and they'll come into the gauntlet. Yes, Anthony, I've been working on it for a little while. We're getting
I
close.
love the OTAs, especially the ones that are coming on.
Yes. No, but honestly, I always thought they were a valuable part of your overall strategy. It's when you become too dependent on them, that really is where the issue is. There's room for great partnerships when everybody could be a winner. But I think the real issue is that they feel that they've really encroached on the individual hotel's profitability. Is that correct, Vinay?
Yeah. I mean, the margins, and then the sad part is, especially if you play on the opaque sites, you don't really know what the cost is because everything has been taken out beforehand. And so a lot of things that are there, so we don't have all the full numbers there. One thing to battle the OTAs, and I think that we could ask the brands for help as well. And I've been touting this for the last so many years, that when the brands require us to have rate parity with OTAs, it makes it a lot harder for me to operate, because if I want to sell my rate at my hotel on my branded website at, let's just say, $100, and then I can sell it on the OTA site at the same rate, there is no incentive. Now,
right.
if we did not have that rate parity, and we keep whatever rate we want to put on our branded website, maybe make it cheaper, that would at least give us some extra flexibility in terms of kind of driving the revenue to our hotels and branded site here. So I hope that the brands and kind of work with us on this and say, hey, look, that rate parity really makes it a lot more challenging for us from a property level.
And we've done a poor job as hoteliers to really educate the consumer, because an educated consumer is our best customer, right? So they're not educated in the sense of they don't understand how much money goes to the third parties. And guess what happens? Who pays for that? The guest.
Exactly.
So their third parties have done a magnificent job of letting guests understand where to go. And unfortunately, it's not directly the website. And again, go to any city and put in hotels in New York City, hotels in LA. The first 2 pages are third parties.
Right.
One of the things is the cash. You talk about their marketing ability. All the OTAs, their marketing spend is probably so many times more than any of the brands, anything others.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, Anthony was not wrong. Those companies are spending like $1 billion each No hotel company, even all of them together, can't compare with that kind of money.
Yeah, and Glenn, you really never need to say Anthony wasn't wrong. You don't need to say those words.
That's really true. Yeah, except when we have to
Except
fight
when
it
I'm
out.
wrong.
Yeah. All right. So, Vinay, I want to get a little bit back more towards the development side. You said you put your projects on hold for like 6 months or so. Makes a lot of sense to me. What's going on with the banking situation? What is your ability to find financing, and how is that really affecting your decisions? Because obviously you're waiting 6 months because there's no demand right now. What's the rush to put any shovels in the ground?
Yeah, right.
But beyond that, what other insights can you give us?
Yeah, lending is, in a way, lending is probably a good way to kind of curtail some of the development. If you don't get the money, the development supply goes down a little bit, at least for the long term. From what I'm seeing, look, the larger institution lenders are not there. They're on frozen. Nobody's actually lending. What's happening, and what you do see, things that are coming out of the ground are local banks that you've got relationships with, that you've banked with over the last so many years, and said they know that you've got a track record in operating a hotel. And they're long-term players on this thing here. So in a way, if you think about it, and for us, pausing 6 months is good just to kind of let the dust settle. Right. But it's probably a great time to build and develop. I'm hoping construction prices, I don't think they'll go down, but at least they'll level off. You probably get some better quality construction. And then by the time, hopefully 21 and 22, 23, when things get back to some normalcy, we'll be ready to be back in the game at that time. So it's
right. I like what you're talking about there, Vinay. That makes a whole lot of sense to me, because you want to open into the upcycle where so many of the properties that were developed over the last 10 years were already firmly in it, so they didn't get to enjoy the full benefits of that upcycle, right?
Exactly. And so, like I said, I've got 2 hotels opening up this year, and we're going to open up in the down cycles. We're preparing for that. But the 2 ones that are in the planning phase, we'll kind of say, look, this is probably a good time to get it done. The hardest challenge is going to be the money, right? And the terms on the loans, what we were able to get probably 6 months ago or a year ago, are probably not going to be available. We'll have to put some more equity into it, and the terms will be a lot more stringent. But at the end of the day, it'll still come out positive when the upside comes out.
But even before COVID, you had to put a lot of equity up to even get a loan before COVID. So if you were going to borrow $1, how much of that dollar did you have to put up before COVID?
Yeah, roughly around like 25 to 30%. Depends on the strength of the deal and the size of the deal. I think looking ahead, and you're probably looking at 60-40, maybe 50-50. It depends on how aggressive a lender wants to be.
Where's that money coming from? Where do you think the best place to get that money from if you're a new hotelier?
It's still local lending. I think that your relationship with a local lender is probably the best and easiest route to go compared to going outside. And again, I'm not saying you can't get it, but I think the local lender is probably your easiest and best route.
And if you have a good relationship with the local lender, you might be able to get terms that are more favorable in the sense of how much money you need to put into the deal.
And I would imagine your track record helps that. And you're owning 9 hotels. I'm sure that helps a lot. What's the one thing that you learned during this epidemic that you're surprised about in a positive way? What's the one thing that you're like, wow, I didn't realize that?
I got to give my staff a credit. That's one of those things where I still remember I went to all of my hotels individually and spoke to every single one of them in March and say, hey, look, we don't know what to expect here. And at that time, it was just probably 2 or 3 months. And by June, July, we should be back. And these guys have really stepped up for us in every way possible. You're talking about they voluntarily will take pay cuts, or they'll work more hours and with less money, just to kind of ride it out. And so the heart that I've seen from our staff has been probably the most positive and it's been really good. And that's what kind of gets us through these days. The fact that they're there and stuff. So that has been the most positive thing that I've seen over the last 6 months.
That's beautiful. I love that you feel like it's your team stepping up. So speaking of your team and opening up new hotels, when you open up a new hotel under this circumstance, how are you going to be doing it differently? Do you even bother open up all the rooms? What kind of staff numbers are you going to get? How are you approaching this in general?
We'll open up all the rooms, but there's no sense in keeping any rooms closed off in any way at all. We'll open up all the rooms. Obviously, we'll be kind of cautious in what we hire. So if we're going to hire staff for, let's say, 30 people at a 100-room hotel, we might open up with a 25 or 20 or whatever. It depends on what we need and stuff. So, and one of the things that all hoteliers, it's hard, but sales and marketing today is probably the most important thing. And so, you focus on that. And that's, I know that there's maybe not a lot of business out there right now, but at the end of the day, when this thing does come out, starting in next year sometime, you're going to have to start getting in there. And so we're focusing a lot more money in our sales and marketing at the new hotels as well, making sure that, hey, look, when we do open, Next year, when it's things slowly try to come back up, it'll be out there. But we're not going at 100% open. I meaning as far as staffing, we're obviously being cautious in what we hire.
No one ever thought that we would pay for luggage in an airplane, but now, do you think the same thing's going to happen where housekeeping services, day-to-day services are gone forever?
Yeah, but one of the things that I think that I know it's very easy for us to compare to travel industry airline, but the sad reality is that airlines are probably 5 or 10 by the most, and 5 control a lot of the inventory out there. In the hospitality business, you got thousands and thousands of hotel owners, and so to get 20,000 or not even 20,000, whatever the number of hotel owners we have in the industry, it's hard to collect all of them. So even you go back to the breakfast and whatever else we talk about. I know even from a AAHOA perspective, when you talk to the brand and say, look, breakfast, many of our owners will say, hey, look, I want to provide some breakfast because I got to be able to be competitive with the market. Some of our owners say we don't want breakfast. So it's hard to kind of co-gel all these owners together. So it's a lot more difficult to just sit there and say, we're going to charge for breakfast or we're going to charge for this. So I think, Anthony, to your question about the housekeeping services, I think the consumers are ready for that. I know when I travel, I typically don't get service 2 or 3 days. I just leave the do not disturb, and I don't want them to come in my room anyway. So I think that is something that some people will adapt to quicker.
That's a sentiment that I felt as well. And I think that gets us into the wider conversation of more unbundling of services that might occur. And for those of you who don't know, unbundling is the term that the airline industry to charge you for absolutely everything individually. So do you think there's any more potential for that in there? I guess we've already seen it with resort fees that kind of throw in the internet and stuff like that as well. Any other opportunities for you to give guests more choices over how they want to spend their money on property?
Yeah, so a lot of the AAHOA owners are mostly mid-scale hotel property. Mm-hmm. Breakfast is a great opportunity. It's a big cost. It's a big cost for us. So how do you kind of make it more efficient? Look, at the end of the day, breakfast, will it go away? Probably not. But are we going to be able to make it more efficient and make sure that whatever the consumer wants is what we're going to deliver? So that's the area and opportunity. Shuttle service at these hotels. I mean, that's something that we could look at options, especially the fact that you've got alternatives like Uber. I mean, there are days I personally don't want to be waiting for a shuttle. I'd rather just take Uber because it's at my time.
That's right.
That's an opportunity that we can take on that side. So a lot of different things that are right there that could adapt to make the hotels a lot more efficient.
What's the biggest thing between the hotel owners today and the brands? What's the number one subject on the table for hotel owners and brands?
People talk all the time about the brands didn't do this and brands didn't cut costs, and maybe the brands should have, and they could do a lot more in terms of giving back to the owners. But the biggest thing is always about communication. And I realize that when you look at some of the brands and the brands that communicated properly and clearly and often to their franchisees, they tend to do a lot better relationship-wise. Whereas the brands that did not communicate properly and efficiently, there's always this battle back and forth that you see and you hear. Could the brands do better? Of course. There are things that they could do a lot better in terms of cost to understanding certain things. I mean, I've got brands who are charging us finance fees of 10%. And I go, look, right now we're in the very dire needs of what we have here. And yet they would not back off on the 10% interest fees on there. So a lot of things I think the brands also need to kind of come together and say, hey, look, how can we work through this process together to get us through this year?
Okay, at the end of the day, those brands 2-3 years from now are going to feel it because you're going to have a choice of what brand to get. Yeah. And I'm sure that there's brands that you have in mind. You're like, I'm going to work with them as much as I can. And then there's probably 1 or 2 brands you're like, good luck and God bless you. I'm never working with you again. And they're going to suffer long time. And
one of the biggest things is the fees. And you talk about the fees, as an owner, you go into a brand thinking, hey, look, you're going to spend maybe 10, 8, 9, 10, maybe up to 12%. A lot of the fees that you see on some of these bills today that you don't even realize. I mean, and I'm not saying they're slipping anything in. It's not about they're not being dishonest, but you look at a lot of the fees that are coming there from this fee to that fee to that fee. All of a sudden, a fee to a brand goes almost 20% of your revenue, and that's a big chunk of cost. I mean,
I remember sitting in a meeting with a hotel that was branded, and I was the vice president for the owner, and I remember the brand saying it's 12% or 10%, whatever it was. And I was literally sitting there. I spent 2 or 3 days, me and my team, putting together how much it really was. Really, because one of the things on these bills, a lot of owners don't even know the bill. They don't even know what's on the bill. And I broke down. I was like, no, I think it was like 18, 19%. I was like, I'm paying 18, 19% for the brand. I'm not paying 10, 11, 12% for the brand. And again, I'm not going to say they sneak them in, but in my opinion, this brand was sneaking them in. You know, my favorite was, and I don't know if you ever got caught up in this, was when they don't charge you for Google search words, but anything that comes through Google search words, they get 10% of total revenue.
Yeah.
Does that still happen?
Yeah, it still happens, and a lot of things do occur like that. And there's certain brands say, look, you got to pay for this Google search where you go through their website or whatever. There's 2 fees that they charge. Yeah, so and those fees are I'm not saying they're hidden, but they're not as obvious, right? So when you look at a fee, and we're hotel owners, and we're looking at a lot of different things here, and you look at these bills, wait a second, small stuff here and there, and those things need to. And I think the brands need to wake up and say, hey, look, this is something that we have an opportunity to work with the ownership group, and then say, look, how can you kind of curtail some of this stuff here? I mean, it's just. Especially in this time, dire times.
And I think, fortunately or unfortunately, fortunately for the hotel owners, maybe unfortunately for the employees and for the brands, I think long term, even 2-3 years from now, the corporate structure of brands are going to be 30% off of corporate executives. I don't think any brand is going to come back stronger than maybe 20%. They're going to be down at least 20% in executive across the board. Because one, I think owners are going to demand, like you said, some reductions, and they're going to realize that they were really, really heavy at the top.
Yeah. If you think about it, $1 million in revenue of a hotel, 20% of fees, that's $200,000. Now, can you imagine if I spend $200,000 just sales and marketing or whatever I need to do to drive revenue to my hotel? It's a big savings, and you talk about value, and plus you're in control of it. You're basically in control of what's going on at your hotel, so it makes a lot better sense. So you're right, on the long term, there's some things that we should need to look at on the brand side.
Right. Excellent. So I know you're supposed to be on here for 15 minutes. We're already over 30. So good for us. Any other specific issues you want to mention today before we let you get back to your duties at AAHOA?
No, I mean, look, we're all in it together. It is the tough times right now. I think the fact that we're all in it together, and I think, putting this on, even the AAHOA to all the different various industry things that we participate in, it makes it a lot easier and stuff. So we'll get through it. I know we will get through it. We've done it before. And so, again, like I said, it's always ones you look back 5 years from now and say, look, man, that was horrible. And I still remember going to the conference in January, the Alice conference, and I'm sitting in the audience saying, hey, 2008 was like 30% of whatever, 40% down.
Right.
We'll never get to that level. And yet we are here much worse than that. But hopefully 6 months or 5 years from now, we'll be saying the same thing and we're back to normal stuff here. So
do you think nobody wants to go through this, and no one wants to see anybody get sick and worse? So this has been devastating. Do you think the third generation, or even maybe the second generation is a little younger, do you think, and I say this and I hesitate to use this word, but it's the only word I would know, is it kind of good for them to see? Because I don't think, like, if their grandfather or grandmother came to this country and they don't remember grandma and grandpa sitting in the back of the motel, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, cooking and cleaning and raising their family in a motel, do you think that this really, they say, oh, that's right, that really nice car I'm driving, my grandmother and grandfather, drove a bicycle.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, I'll give you my own example. My parents, even today, I'm probably a little bit more liberal, but my dad still called night order at night. Hey, what's going on? I go, you don't need to call a night order, but he'll call the night order. I would never do that. So today, myself, I wake up at night saying, I wonder what's going on, how many rooms or this or that. And so I think even my generation, the next generation, will definitely be a wake-up call in terms of how we do things and how we do business and how we even live, how we generally live, I guess, especially in this world.
And for those people that are first getting into the hotel business, always call the night order about 3:45 to 4:15 in the morning, because that's prime time napping. Okay. So you want to make sure that that's about the time. Anything earlier, they haven't closed, they haven't finished. About 5 o'clock, people start coming in. So about 3:45 to 4:15, man, you want to catch a night order sleeping, that's the time.
That's hysterical. I used to have a job in college where I worked overnights, and that was my nap time. You nailed it, man.
Listen, I was a night manager for, I'd say, all total 3 years. Once at the Plaza and then at the MC Suites in Times Square. And I remember one guy who was just a terrible night order, and I couldn't get him. And one day they let me into the security. I remember back in the day when they had these big computers and the big printers, and so this was like cordoned off. Even the night manager couldn't get in there. So finally I got in there. One of my security officers let me in. And I had a Polaroid. Remember the security Polaroid cameras, right? And there he was, man. And he didn't fall asleep on the floor, just fall out. Like, he had his water, he had his pillow, he had like a duvet cover from the room. And this man was completely ready for sleep. and I just took a picture of it, and I just in the morning I just taped it so when he woke up he saw it, and that was the end of him. Anyway, so it was great to be with you. Good luck with AAHOA, and if anybody wants to see me, I'll be at booth 144 today.
Great. Hey, thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you, Vinay. Really appreciate it. And we'll have a good day today. And tomorrow, we were going to be having on President and CEO Cecil Staten to give us an update on day 2 and what to expect during day 3. I love what Vinay is saying. He's really about the empowerment of the hoteliers over there, getting them back on track, and thinking real smartly about his investments in the future. I got to tell you, I was pretty impressed by the whole notion of this conversation.
You know what's amazing about him, and I've met a lot of hotel executives in my life, obviously. Mm-hmm. He's just always so cool and calm and intelligent and charismatic. And there's something about him I just want to be around, and I just love his energy.
Yeah, I do too. And I got to tell you, he just really nailed absolutely everything today. Absolute pleasure to speak with him today. And again, tomorrow we got Cecil Staten on. Make sure you check out booth 144 and talk about hospitality success. And Anthony, more than ever, this seems to be the place for people to have to go. Learn how to be independent, learn how to run those businesses yourselves. And one of the things that I'm struck with is by how many people don't realize what they don't know when it comes to running a hotel.
Yeah.
I knew I was teeing you up, but I didn't think it was going to be that much.
I make a nice living of being frustrated with people. It's just like, I don't understand. You get your driver's license, you get in the car. Could you imagine I'm going, what's your steering wheel? Like I can tell you more times than not when they say, where's your star report? People say, what's your star report? And these are like sophisticated, intelligent people. So yeah, it's very frustrating. And he nailed it. I mean, you don't need a brand if you know how to run a hotel. And more importantly, if you know how to buy a hotel, because if you buy a hotel in the right market for the right price, you don't need a brand.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the brand doing? And I'm not saying, again, I love brands and there's a lot of important brands out there, but I'm talking about the mom and pop person that's able to get X amount of dollars with their local bank, put it together, get a 100-room hotel. And that's who I'm talking about. Those are the people that 20% will be the difference between, making a living and not making a living.
Mm-hmm. Right. And one of the other good things about the AAHOA organizations, they've got a great CHO program that they've been helping out a lot of people. So you could go check that out as well. I'm just looking at some notes on that. Since March, they've got over 530 engaged members in that. So that's pretty cool. So check that out. Also, Anthony, you know what I keep thinking about is I keep thinking we're doing this show, but there's a lot of people out there listening on an audio stream. And I bet a lot more people are saying to themselves, hey, I didn't even realize I could get this audio only for when I'm out walking the dog or working out or whatever I am.
Actually, I prefer to listen to this on podcast because for a number of reasons. I can go through and see who I want to listen to. So that guy seems interesting. Oh, that hotel, that company. Yeah, I want to get a job at Hilton. Let me go listen to the Hilton. So to me, it categorizes, lists everything, and it's easier to find it on LinkedIn. So yes, please listen to our podcast, Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, which is the same exact podcast as No Vacancy Live podcast, which we do right here on LinkedIn Live. And if that's all confusing for you, so it is for us too.
Yeah, don't worry about that. The good thing is if you go to iTunes and you check it out, you can see the last 100 episodes. If you want to go back before that in the catalog, go to novacancynews.com. You can see all of those shows and learn from us. We've had so many great guests on. They've done great stuff. Anthony, I'm just really happy that it's sunny out. I've got power back today. I'm going to get my studio all set up this afternoon. I'm also going to be checking out AAHOA 2020, and I hope you have a good time over there today.
Yeah, when are we going away?
All right, working on it. We made a breakthrough yesterday with one major resort. I'm looking forward to that. We're gonna wind up going down there and interviewing their really awesome, recently appointed CEO.
The real question is I don't know if I can go another month without poker.
I know. I don't even if we get you to these places, I don't know who's even doing poker right now. Is Atlantic City doing?
I just want to wave to the poker room.
Excellent. Speaking of which, Anthony, we really got to put together that other tournament to help out with the Hospitality Strong initiative.
Yeah, we're having a meeting on that next couple of days about the whole Hospitality Strong thing. More to come. David, let's start working on the poker tournament as well. So please go to Hospitality Strong on GoFundMe, and we are going to start allocating those money. Like, listen, we don't know what we're doing with PPP money, and that $600 went away. So we're starting to get more inquiries. So the more money we have, the more help we can do. So thank you for mentioning that. Thursday, 3:00. Please go to my Facebook Live page at 3:00. We'll be doing hospitality success behind the scenes of Hotel Impossible. And yesterday we did some more content for a show that we're doing. And I actually did something very special for AAHOA that we'll be posting very soon. You saw it yesterday. You liked it, huh?
I loved it.
Thank you.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it really showed your passion as a human being and your love for this industry. To me, great combination.
Right. And nobody knows what we're talking about, but soon you'll know what we're talking about.
No, that's all right. Soon you guys will figure it out. Yesterday, I didn't do any of that stuff. I may have had a combination plate from my local Chinese restaurant. That's about as exciting as it gets.
You know what my daughter said? I showed it to my daughter, and this is what my daughter said. She looks at it, she goes, "This is really good quality."
Yeah, the video looked right on.
Listen, I had a one-man camera crew. Alex Goldstein, man, he's a rock star. He's if you're thinking about making a film, or you need a commercial shot, or you need anything produced, Alex Goldstein's the man. He literally, I came in, took him 3 hours to set up. He had the camera, he had the lighting, he had the sound, and he's a perfectionist like I am. And I just sat there and watched him work, and he said action, and I delivered, and then I went home and he had to clean up. and then he edited it. I want to talk about that for a second. Mm-hmm. Alex Goldstein, when I first met him, he was on my set right out of college. He was maybe 23 years old. He was the guy who basically took care of the video, made sure the video got to New York. So we would shoot it, and then he would take care of the tape and make sure it gets delivered to New York City and to Atlas and then to Travel Channel without getting screwed up. Because could you imagine losing all the footage, right? So that was his job. He would talk to the director about how to direct. He would talk to the lighting guy. He would talk to the sound guy. He would talk to the camera guy. And he was never not asking questions, and he was never not working. He was always paying attention. He was always paying attention to how I interacted with the producers and always asking questions. It was phenomenal. That was a one-man show. Now he knows how to do it all. It's amazing. He knows how to edit. He knows how to shoot. He knows how to light. He knows how to talk to a host and producer. He's absolutely extraordinary. So if you're a young person, or even if you're in a hotel, learn how to do everything.
Yes, I think that's a great lesson for life. Ask those questions. Find out what you don't know. Hey, the fact of the matter is, people love to share that information. It makes them feel really good about themselves. So don't be scared about going to ask them these questions and advice. They want to do it. Yeah.
I was listening to Joe Rogan, and there was a gentleman that invented or created the Spartan race. You know the Spartan race? Did we talk about this?
Mm-hmm. No.
Okay. So he created the Spartan race, and he was competitive with the no mutter or mutter race or whatever. He bought that. Now he's the biggest in the world. He has 400 competitions around the world, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And he said the best advice he ever got was from if you don't know the Spartan race, go on Google and look it up. Basically, it's a competition, for people just like you and me that just want to go, make believe we're weekend warriors and run in mud and jump over obstacle courses. And he lived in Howard Beach, which in the 70s and 80s was kind of the home of the mafia, John Gotti and everything. So he lived next to this mafia guy, Captain Mafia. And the guy said, "Hey, I'll give you $15 to clean my pool." So he goes over, he shows up at whatever time, 8 o'clock, supposed to be at 8 o'clock. He shows up at 8 o'clock, gives him the $15, and he goes, "Sit down." He goes, "What's the matter? You don't like the way I cleaned your pool?" He goes, "No." A couple things. One, 8 o'clock is late. Show up 5, 10, 15 minutes early, because 15 minutes early is on time. 8 o'clock is late, even if I said 8 o'clock, number one. Number two, my pool furniture around the pool, it's in disarray. I know I told you to clean my pool, but why can't you fix my pool furniture? And my glass through my doors coming out to my patio are dirty. Why couldn't you clean that? Make yourself indispensable. Make yourself that I need to hire you. I can hire any kid to clean my pool for $15. I want to say, I want to hire you because I need you, because I know you're going to do more. And I was telling this to my daughter, the story to my daughter, and we're in the car, and she goes, "You know what, Dad? I just had that experience." I go, "What?" She goes, "I was just at my boyfriend's house, and his mother said that a friend of hers hired a babysitter, and the babysitter, took out the dishes out of the dishwasher, swept the floor, and did more than just babysit." She goes, "When I babysit, I just sit on the couch when they go to sleep.
Yeah, that's right.
She goes, I learned the lesson. You have to make yourself indispensable. You have to make yourself where people are looking for you. And that to me is really the basic, and we talk about it in the book, really the basics of especially today. Today, don't just show up. And what Alex did was he made himself like I can't live without him. Like anytime I have a project or anytime we're doing a new show, or even I sit on the board of directors of a animal veterinarian company, and they needed a guy to shoot some video, and we hired Alex.
Yep, that's awesome.
Do more than required. Do a little, you go a lot further.
Especially now, more than ever, as every job is hard to come by. You've got to get out there and you've got to push yourself. Speaking of people looking for jobs, lovely Azul is looking for a job. She's looking for a management opening. I believe she is in Houston, so give her a shot there. Anthony,
what I would tell you is just walk. Stop sending resumes. Walk. Go into hotels. Knock on doors. Knock down buildings. Do what you got to do. Show up. Let them see your smile. Let them see your passion. Don't send a resume. Don't say, here's my cover letter. Go in and kick down doors. That's
a really great point, Anthony. When back in the 1990s, when my buddy just got out of college and he wanted to be an editor and he had a reel. So he started by sending them to all the edit houses and all the production shops, never got any responses. Took VHS recordings, went to every single studio he was interested in working with, made them watch the tapes in person, and he's had a great career ever since.
Listen, we want to feel something, right? The hotel, somebody was saying, I think on the show yesterday, when you go in a hotel, you want to feel something. You want to feel like it's home. You want to feel inspired. So if I'm around somebody, that's going to tell me, I'm going to be around that person all day long, working with that person. That person's going to make me feel comfortable. That person's going to make me feel safe. After we shot 2 days ago, we shot all day. We shot for like 6 hours. And Alex said, do you want to see any of it? And I said, no. Now, people that know, there's two types of people that know me. One person would say, of course he wants to see it. He's a micromanager and he's insane. And then the other people that know me that if they do a good job and I trust them, it's like, no, I don't want to see it. Alex, it's you.
Right.
I didn't look at one frame. I mean, that is unheard of. I didn't look at the lighting. I didn't look at myself. I didn't tell him to stand in so I can see it at all. I didn't see it till he sent me the edited version. And I was like, perfect.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
You've got to make yourself indispensable.
And good for you having the ability to let go of that control.
Well, you know what? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to work any harder than I have to.
Right.
So I'll work as hard. I'll outwork everybody. But if I can do no work, I'm in. I put that on the show every single day.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely love that. All right. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to do no work because we're going to go participate in AAHOA. Make sure you visit Anthony over at booth 144, learn all about hospitality success. And I hope you like my intros, outros, and middles that I'm doing for all of the different events throughout the day. Anthony, what a great show. Tomorrow, Cecil Staten. We'll get a little more about what's going on at AAHOA, learn a little bit more about what they're doing up on Capitol Hill, all of that good stuff that we need to know.
That's right. What you said.
All right. So also, if you like what Vinay had to say, go check out our hotel reboot event on refinancing and reinvesting, because we've got a lot of great practical insider information that you need to go check that out at hotelreboot.com. Make sure you join Hospitality Success on Facebook and go check out him at booth 144. Anthony, any final thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up for today?
Take a guess, 1 to 50. Give me a number. Go.
37.
23. We're going to get it right one day.
We did get it right one day, but you hadn't written it down.
Right. Okay.
All right.
So anyway, take us out of here, my brother.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and